Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome back to my series of videos where I talk about my favorite games from various publishers. Today we're going to talk about Rio Grande Games, and I think it's important to, Rio Grande Games, one of those companies you almost feel like giving a slow clap to. Its owner and founder, Jay Tomlinson, originally worked for Mayfair and was definitely one of the people who was involved in bringing games from Europe, mostly Germany at the time, to America through Mayfair, but eventually went off and started his own company, Rio Grande, and that was what Rio Grande did. For several years, Rio Grande was where you went to get these games if you wanted them in English, and that was fantastic. Eventually, Rio Grande started printing their own games, and their first few forays into that were not particularly good. But as time went by, their stuff got better, and they made a few that were really well done. Not really known for their graphic design or art, but they are known for their gameplay. So these are my 10 favorite games from Rio Grande, starting with number 10. This is one they did do on their own just recently. It's one of the newer ones on the list, and that's Space Station Phoenix. In fact, there are several space games on the list. This one just pushed off Roll for the Galaxy. But Space Station Phoenix is one of those ones where it does not look fantastic. It looks icons everywhere. But the idea of this game where you have some cards in front of you, you are taking actions using these cards or selling the cards for spare parts. The cards are ships. And you're doing all this to build up a space station, which is going to give you more special abilities and make your actions better. And it's interactive with the other players a lot. It looks like this huge, gigantic game, and it's not a small game, but it's not as big as it looks either. But it's really solid, and I found it to be a lot of fun. Number 9 is a small game. This is one they brought over from the Cosmos 2-player line, and that is Lost Cities. Lost Cities is just one of the games I played the most in my life. With my wife, we've played a lot of this as you are going on expeditions, but you're playing numerical cards in front of yourself, trying to play cards in ascending order to go over 20, but your opponent is going to keep cards in their hand so that you can't use them. Some very cool back and forth in this game. I love Lost Cities. Number 8 is Underwater Cities. This is another co-publication that they did with Vladimir Suchy. And Underwater Cities, a big, chunky, involved game. Worker placement as you're putting your little ships out to build an underwater city. So you're on one hand, you're building a cities with connections. On the other hand, you have cards in front of you, building up an engine of sorts, a little bit like terraforming Mars. And there's just a lot of different cool actions and ways that this game comes together. Number 7 is El Grande. This is another one that was brought over from Germany, 1995. This is an old game, and while some here in the Dice Tower Studios do not like it as much as I do, I do think that gameplay has gotten better over the years. But I think El Grande holds its own. It is an area majority style game as you are fighting over controlling different spots in Spain. Yes, it does not look great. It's cubes and a pretty ugly board, but the way that the cards work with area control is just fantastic. Number 6 is Puerto Rico. This one that Rio Grande did in conjunction with Alea Games was number 1 on Board Game Geek for many years, and for good reason. This game is tight. It is the very definition of the word elegant, where you make an action and then each other player can follow that action, but only the person who picked the action gets the bonus. A lot of good choices. I personally prefer Puerto Rico with the expansion. I'm very curious because it offers more diversity. I'm very curious as to the new version that's coming out this year to see what kind of changes will be made with it. They even made a kind of a variant of Puerto Rico in space with the Race for the Galaxy theme on top of it. But Puerto Rico is just a game that I've always really enjoyed. Number 5 is Carcassonne the City. So Carcassonne, this is a game that there's lots of Carcassonne games out there, but Carcassonne the City is my favorite of all of them. This is one where there's actually little wooden walls that you put around, enclosing the tiles as you build them. The tiles don't even have to match when you put them down, which is kind of a wonky thing when you first think about it, but it actually makes the gameplay easy to teach. You're putting your little meeples on top of walls, into markets, on the roads, and it's very accessible, but I also think it's very strategic and fun. I like it a lot. Carcassonne the City. Number 4 is Airlines Europe. Now this is one that Originally was designed as Union Pacific. Alan Moon is a designer, and they rethemed it to Airlines Europe, which I like a lot. In this game, there's several airlines which are expanding throughout Europe, and you have the option on a turn basically to grow the airlines or to invest in it more. And that's kind of a tricky situation to find that balance in between them. It scales well. This one plays good at higher player counts. Very few economic games like this do. Like if you like Acquire, I think you like Airlines Europe. It is a lot of fun, and it's my number 4. Number 3 is a very new one. It just came out last year, or maybe the year before that, but oh man, I love this game, and that's Beyond the Sun. This is one of the ones that Rio Grande published on their own. As always, not particularly a looker, but this is a tech tree in a game. You're going out colonizing planets and things like that, but you're doing so by building a tech tree and following this tech tree, and this tech tree is going to be different every game. The tech tree often gives new spots to put down your worker so you get different actions. And man, there's just so many strategic fun choices. It comes with dice. They're not really dice, they're just pawn pieces. But the whole thing is just, there's so many fascinating, cool choices to make in it. My top 2, not even close here. Number 2, Race for the Galaxy. I already mentioned this. Roll for the Galaxy just got knocked off this list. I like that follow-up to Roll for the Galaxy and New Frontiers, which was the Race for the Galaxy Puerto Rico board game. But Race for the Galaxy, man, this game where everyone picks an action card from their hand, and everyone gets to do that action, but whoever picks the card gets a bonus, very similar to Puerto Rico. This card game version just sings when you play it, and once you know how to play it, so strategic, so many options, a lot of expansions for it, but just the base game still makes me happy. In fact, I remember when I first played this thinking that not another card game could ever outdo this one because it feels like just almost a perfect game. Race for the Galaxy is that good. But then I played my number 1, which is Dominion. Dominion, designed by Donald X. Vaccarino, another original game for Rio Grande, and in fact, helped Rio Grande a lot with a nice infusion of cash because of how popular this game did. This is the game that popularized deck building. There were people who were building decks, obviously, with Magic the Gathering. There was a smidge of deck building in StarCraft, the board game, but Dominion took deck building and made it the main mechanism of a game, introducing a new genre and changing board gaming forever. It's now just a regular mechanism you see in games. But you know what? I still love Dominion. The umpteenth expansion later, when it comes out, I'm excited. I want to see the new ones. I play the new cards. I love playing it. You know, I can play with 2. I love 2-player. You play so quickly. You get these 10 sets of cards. How are you going to take these 10 sets of cards and beat your opponent? Just a lot of fun, interesting things, and there still seems to be room in this design space. And even if they never design another expansion, there's still so much fun stuff out there. I just love it. So there you go. Those are my 10 favorite games from Rio Grande Games. Let me know what your favorite are in the comments. And until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. These have been my favorite games from Rio Grande on the Dice Tower.